Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of LunarCRUSH Live, and we are live today, so I want to thank everyone for joining us. We got a great crew here today. We're down in Costa Rica in Santa Teresa, and just a reminder to everyone, we do not take payment for our live streams. We interview cool projects with people that we think are interesting and projects that we think are doing fun stuff and are interesting stuff. And so today I've got the team from Nimik. And I've got Sven, Philipp, and Ricardo, Richy. Thank you guys for being here with me. Thank you for hosting this. This is really exciting, so I really appreciate you guys having me.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
Yeah, Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
So normally the way we start this is we say, where in the world are you today and what's a day in the life? So, maybe Sven, you could start us off. Where are we today? What's a day in the life for you with Nimik?
Yeah, we are in Costa Rica in Santa Teresa. Basically, we can see the Pacific Ocean from here. And this is our working hideout where we meet regularly during the year, get all together, the entire team, work focused on goals, but also try to enjoy ourselves a bit, try to mix it a bit and have a focused time to work together.
Yeah, work a little bit in team building, also strategy meetings, get our heads together and align.
Cool. So let's go through it. Tell us exactly what your role is at Nimik.
I'm working in communications, like from trade, I'm a programmer, but I've moved more and more in communication. I do technical documentation, being a little bit the link between the technical part and actually getting the word out. Yeah,
so communications. And then, Philipp?
So I'm kind of the tech lead here at Nimik. So I'm a blockchain developer. I have a PhD in computer science and was one of the people that kind of started this project. And I'm responsible for Nimiq 2.0, obviously, and also Oasis, which is one of my brainchilds. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to diving into that. And Richy, who are you? What do you do?
Well, I'm also a technical person by trade. I'm an electric engineer, with specialty in telecommunications. But I'm doing communications here at Nimik because, same as Sven, it's really important to get a link between the technical people and the not so tech savvy users from the community. So I'm organizing the community, taking care of communications and making sure all the content that we share out there is understandable or easy to digest for our users.
Mm-hmm. Cool, super important. And so, maybe Philipp, you can talk us a little through, tell us about the journey of Nimik. How did this kind of start? Where were the beginnings? Where did the idea come from? And just kind of walk us through the journey.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it all started in, I would say, April 2017. This is where the founding team kind of got together for the first time. The initial idea was brought by a founder called Robin, who unfortunately already left the project in the meantime. But he, back then, what he was doing, he was trying to build a browser wallet for Bitcoin, I believe. And the thing that he was struggling with was that from the browser, you couldn't directly connect to the Bitcoin blockchain. So in order to build a web wallet, a browser wallet for Bitcoin, you always needed like some intermediary, some gateway that allows your browser to connect to the Bitcoin network or the Ethereum network, whatever you want to build. So and that of course poses a challenge or an issue when it comes to censorship resistance and decentralization, because now you need to rely on that gateway node to kind of relay traffic between the Bitcoin network and your browser. So you need to kind of trust that gateway node, or at least it needs to be available. So basically the core idea that we started with was to build a browser-based blockchain, or at least a blockchain that is available for browser clients such that they can directly connect and interact with the network without going through a gateway node or a proxy node that gives them access to the network. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of the core or the start of the whole thing. That this was the problem that he encountered, and so he kind of brought Elion and myself on board to help him with that idea. And this is also what we. Our first blockchain was really built around that idea, and we built a first prototype like within the first 2 months, I would say, after getting together.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about. We talked about it beforehand. Tell me about like the hackathon and the meetup and how that all came together.
Okay, so So we basically got together here in mid-April 2017, and then Robin had already done some work on the blockchain client, but it was still pretty far from actually being a working blockchain. So we got together and started hacking, and we were looking at Bitcoin at that time for inspiration, and how we were basically looking at Bitcoin when we were initially designing that blockchain. And we organized, or Elon organized a meetup 3 weeks after we got together here, and there we already had some demos of what we were thinking of doing, even though they were just demos and they didn't have any real tech underneath yet. We could already show around, the idea with the cash links, for example, that you can just send a link through a messenger and that way send funds from one wallet to another. And people really liked that at that meetup. And that meetup also brought a couple of interesting, people here from Costa Rica to us. Richy was, for example, one of them. And that's how we got in. That's actually how we got in touch. And I think you guys actually were the ones who suggested to do an ICO. At that point, we actually didn't really know what an ICO was. So you guys pitched that to us, and so we started looking into that. And by the end of May, I think we already had a pretty advanced prototype, and that was when we were bringing more people in. We flew I think almost I'd say 15 developers from Germany flew out here to Santa Teresa, and also the Costa Rican guys joined in, and then we kind of had our prototype finished, I think, by the beginning of June, and that's also when we launched our ICO proposal. And so after publishing the prototype, which was actually a fully working blockchain running in a browser, we started the ICO, I think 2 weeks after, at the end of June 2017.
Okay, so that was 2017.
2017,
that
yeah.
was the born of how hackathons for Team Nimik were born. Because
Right.
Everybody got here together, and we basically started working non-stop until we had this project release out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want, and maybe Sven, you can do it, and then we can talk a little bit, because I want to talk about getting the team together for the sprints. But first, I want you to just give me what is Nimik in 2 sentences or 3 sentences? What's kind of the elevator pitch that you guys are out there with?
I think Nimik is the idea to do blockchain properly, which means decentralization and all those goodness of blockchain, and at the same time being so usable that a person that has not even touched crypto yet can hop in minutes and be part of it and use it. We want to not compromise on any of those parts. We want to bring those together.
Very cool. And I know we're going to get a little bit to kind of this fiat to crypto on-ramp with SEPA, which I'm super interested to hear about, because being in the United States, we don't have that system, right? And so I know Europe has it, and I think it's down here as well. So that is, learning about that is super interesting. So I want to talk about that. But first, I want to talk about just what's it like to bring people here to this place and recruit people to work on this, and having, I know that it's part-time kind of down here, but then people are still remote. So what's it been like kind of creating a remote / local team here? And I mean, maybe you can talk about it.
It's very interesting because we are a remote first team, I would say. Mm-hmm. So we have already workflows established that allows us to work remotely in an efficient way. So of course, doing regular calls where everybody gets together and sync on what we're working on remotely is important. But seeing each other a couple of times a year really has helped a lot. And coming to Costa Rica and using this as our secret hideout, as Sven was saying. Also, the community already, I feel they identified themselves with us in this location, this tropical location. There's also a lot of charity or altruistic mindset to the project, because we try to, for example, right now we're moving from proof of work to proof of stake, which is from the technical perspective very interesting. It's going to increase the throughput of the blockchain, but also it's going to reduce the energy consumption, which is very important for us. Being here in Costa Rica, it even makes it more important. We are surrounded by nature, and I feel that is a little bit into every line of code that is embedded there. There's this cultural thing that we all, when we come here, it stays with us. So I think that is pretty interesting.
Cool. And kind of tagging on to that, I heard that about 2% of the total supply is used for charity. And is that in a DAO? Like, how is that distributed? Is that something that's built in from the beginning? Have you chosen a charity? And why do you think other blockchains maybe aren't doing that? Because I haven't heard about that before, at least like up front. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
So we kind of built the charity aspect into the blockchain by putting a portion of the funds into a vesting contract in the Genesis block that is intended for use for charitable purposes. So it's not in a smart contract or anything, but it's in a vesting contract in the sense that we don't have access to those funds immediately, but they are vested, I think, for the next 10 years. And right now, we haven't put that much emphasis on the charity aspect yet, because we are still working on getting the NIM price to a level where we can actually use those funds, we want to have those funds allocated for charity at a value where we can actually do something.
You want to
impactful.
make the biggest impact possible.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I think we might actually also change our communication strategy here a little bit in the future, and to make the charity aspect a little more prominent, or even very prominent. Because ultimately I feel that Team Nimik really kind of lives for this charity aspect. I almost feel that this is the primary objective, or the primary driving force for us, to actually give something back to the world, do something to make this world better. And I think that is actually the primary motivation why we are doing this. So I think we also need to do a better job at communicating this driving force.
That's what we're here for, to help you with that. So I want to talk about SEPA, and I think this will kind of help frame for people a little bit, how big this is to have. It's almost like a bank-to-bank trustless transaction, but maybe you guys can, and just kind of whoever wants to tackle it. What is SEPA, right? How are you guys tying into that, and how does that work, with Nimik? Because just kind of maybe explain it. Like, I'm a user, I'm going out to my browser, like mobile web browser. I'm inputting my bank account number, my routing number maybe, or a Swift code, and boom, I can get up to $1,000 a month, into my account, right?
Okay, so first, SEPA, single European payments area, which is like the European payment network for banks, right? For if you do like a wire transfer in Europe, you're going to be using SEPA. As Sven already said, usability is one of our core values, right? And one of the biggest pain points that we feel still exist today for average users is getting in and out of crypto, because typically at this very point you kind of give up on most of the cool properties that crypto has, right? So you typically go through a centralized exchange which wants your passport. You give up on privacy or on anonymity, and so centralized exchanges kind of suck, right? So, and nevertheless, they are still the de facto way of getting in and out of crypto. Right. But we wanted to tackle this particular pain point, especially with respect to fiat, because the average user is gonna be having fiat in his pocket and not Ethereum or whatever. In order to actually, in order to onboard users, we need to support fiat. As Sven said, our objective is also not only to make it usable, but to keep the crypto properties. So we wanted to refrain from just building another service that is just a centralized service which takes your fiat and gives you crypto. So what we came up with is since we collaborate with 1031 Bank, when that collaboration came to be, one of the first ideas that we have for a joint project was to build a hash time lock contract for Euro. So a hash timer contract, is a smart contract that allows you to do cross-chain atomic swaps. So to basically swap one crypto asset for another crypto asset on a different chain, and do so atomically in the sense that if both parties execute the protocol correctly, nobody can cheat or defraud the other. So it's a protocol to do decentralized crypto-to-crypto swaps without trusting the other party. And this mechanism, which is already established for crypto-to-crypto exchange, the core idea to us to basically take this mechanism, hash timer contract, this primitive that we need in order to interlock one asset with another one on a different chain, and to just take that primitive and implement it on top of the euro. So instead of basically mapping the euro to a token on the blockchain and then doing it with a token, we just eliminate the stablecoin intermediary step, but just immediately make the euro behave as if it was a token on the blockchain, at least with respect to that particular functionality.
Right.
So now we have basically a bank as a trusted node in the fiat network, because fiat ultimately is custodial, right? So you cannot really have a non-custodial fiat solution, because someone is ultimately gonna be holding on to that fiat.
Yeah, whether it's the safe in your house, buried in your backyard, or someone's holding it.
Exactly.
Right.
So we cannot get rid of that aspect because it's just intrinsic to fiat money.
Right.
But the best that we can do from a trust point of view is to use the most trusted entity in the fiat universe, which is a bank. And the trust is really just derived from the regulatory framework within which the bank operates, and which kind of forces it ideally to behave correctly, right? So of course we have a different level of trust here, but I think from looking at the fiat world, this is the best level of trust that we can get, and I think it is certainly better than just an arbitrary crypto exchange that operates in some jurisdiction without any rules and no accountability ultimately. So we replace the unregulated crypto exchange with a bank when it comes to transferring and holding onto your fiat. And that setup allows us to basically do fiat to crypto swaps in the same way that crypto to crypto swaps used to work with hash timer contracts.
Yeah.
So when you now want to basically buy crypto, you can, with fiat, you can do so in the same way than you would be using like an atomic swap to trade crypto to crypto. And we basically build on top of the bank to make sure that the terms of the hash timer contract, of the smart contract, are enforced correctly. So we trust the bank to do that instead of the miners or the nodes that run the blockchain network.
Yeah, fiat to crypto on-ramp, and it's such a, I think it's, people talk about building Ethereum bridges right now, but it's really the fiat to crypto bridge is still the most important aspect of what's going on. And I like kind of the agnostic approach that you guys are taking, because it's, we're not just going to switch all gold and fiat and every asset in the world into crypto immediately. There needs to be a correct way to do it, and a way that makes people feel comfortable to understand and kind of get into it. And so for example, I've got an account at the bank there, and I want to bring $1,000, or 1,000 euros into Nimik and into my wallet. Is it an extension that I can have in the browser? Is it a destination on the browser? Is it an app today? How is it digitally working right now?
Well, there are plenty of moving parts to it.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to do is to build a system comprised of different components that can also be used in different contexts. So what we have built right now is we have basically integrated into the Nimiq wallet the option to buy NIM or Bitcoin directly with euro from your bank account. NIM and Bitcoin, exactly. So the Nimiq wallet supports Nimiq and Bitcoin.
Wow.
And but that is just one option to use Oasis and the whole swap machinery that we have basically built up. But all of these components are actually open to anyone. So, for example, this Euro HTLC that we are offering with Oasis and 1031 Bank, any project can basically build on that without using the other parts that we are providing.
Gotcha.
So it's a standalone primitive that can be used to build a lot of different, blockchain applications.
And that's all open source?
And it's, well, the service, the implementation of Oasis is not open source yet. The API, of course, is available, and you can use it like free of charge without registration. You can just basically, build your application against that API and then leverage the Euro HTLC and the escrow functionality that the 1031 bank provides.
So what do you guys, how do you see centralized finance and decentralized finance? Say we're 2-3 years from now, we're onboarding these people. Is it going to take, I've always kind of wondered, why can't I just log into my bank account and buy Bitcoin, right? And I know in the US there's things that they're working on, and I understand there's regulation there, but what does the world look like, do you guys think, in 2 to 3 years with the banks? Are they going to have to come fully over? Do you think they keep fighting this? It sounds like this bank in Europe is pretty progressive, but just kind of philosophically, what do you think?
I think the genie is out of the bottle, basically, right? This thing has been opened up and you can't close the box of the Pandora. I think it's the same thing with the internet. Was in the 90s where people said, that is for nerds, that's never gonna take off. And now people have it in their pocket. They don't even know exactly what the World Wide Web is, how the internet works, and they use it every day, many hours. And I feel already now this year with institutional investors pouring into crypto, I think this final barrier has already been taken, and now it's solely about how to make this technology, like in the 90s when it was like a 2-minute process to get my modem to dial up and to connect to all this stuff. Now we're having a similar situation in crypto. It is still cumbersome, it is complicated, it's effort I just take out my phone and it somehow just magically works, right? All this complexity, and we're talking about a lot of complexity, but to hide this all in usable interfaces, I think this is what is starting to happen, and give it, I think 2-3 years is a good time frame to see this really become reality. I think so. I think maybe a little bit longer, but we're talking about that direction. Yeah.
Do you guys remember that sound, the modem sound?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And it's I remember getting a cable modem and getting Ethernet and playing Rainbow Six, with people in my neighborhood, and we all had the lowest latency, and you just call it pinging people, but it was probably the most fun thing ever. But it was things loading quickly and things happening fast, and it's I think people don't realize how important speed is when it comes to experience, right? And it's I don't think it's so much getting something now, and people aren't there's some people that are not very patient, but it's almost the time that you get back for the other things that you want to do, when you can accomplish the things that you need to be done, to survive and to live and to do what you're doing, is amazing. So I think I like the way you kind of talked about that.
But also in terms of user experience, when I'm giving trainings to newcomers to crypto, always explain Bitcoin first, because that's what they heard around, right? And they hear about the 10-minute block time or confirmation time, and then they go really? So this is for payments? And I tell them, I've been waiting for a transaction to go through 20 minutes in a bar or in a supermarket that is not going to cut it, or in a bus station.
Right.
So for Nimik to have 1 minute confirmation times is improving, but then to go, now that we're going to proof of stake, where we're looking at 1 second confirmation times, that really increases usability and makes it a feasible payment protocol, because you're not going to wait around this for a payment to go through.
Yeah, and started as proof of work, moving to proof of stake, almost there, right? Mm-hmm. And then, it's is there going to be APY with this in your wallet? If I'm holding Bitcoin or if I'm holding Nimik, are you guys going to pay out a little bit of interest on that too in the wallets?
So there's rewards for staking, right? Because we moved to proof of stake, there's going to be reward. Also, right now we have the emission curve that Nimik uses is inspired after Bitcoin. So it uses a similar curve. But the community have been, for a while, been very outspoken about how they feel that the emission is just too high right now. And we had a vote with the community where they actually proposed and chose that the emission curve is reduced So with Nimiq 2.0, when we move to proof of stake, we are going to start giving rewards for staking, but at the same time, the curve is going to, the inflation, the emission is going to lower. So we're moving from, I think, 3,500 NIM per minute to around 400, I think.
500.
500. Yeah, so that's quite a reduction. So that's going to be really interesting. Reducing the emission time and at the same time introducing staking into the system is going to create, I think, a lot of scarcity and be very interesting for people that are looking for rewards and how to make their NIM work for them, because now you don't have to use machines with electricity. You can just use your NIM to generate some income.
Yeah.
In the rewards.
And how did you guys do that vote? Do you have a DAO? I mean, was it with the developer community? I mean, how did that happen?
Actually, the one who created
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not a DAO, we didn't want to make it more complicated than necessary.
Right.
But the votes are recorded on the blockchain indeed. So it was as simple as you send a microtransaction of 1 Luna, which is our Satoshi, basically. And as part of our transactions, you can also send a little message, and then code in the message is what you voted for. And then the application would just create you a nice user interface where you can choose your options. There's different forms of votes, and then it would package this up, send the transaction out, and when somebody wants to see the result, it would scan the blockchain and just show it in graphs who won. So in every point in the future, people can go and see, oh yeah, that's why that is the way it is.
Sounds like a product in and of
summary-
itself right there.
Yeah, in the summary, it was like there was not only one voting procedure, but it was several of them. First, we had a election process where people could decide, do we actually want to change the curve or not? That was the first one. Then the majority of the community voted, yes, we want to change it.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we want to change it, what are the options? We actually suggested two options, but also we held AMAs and discussions with the community, and they suggested a third option. And this was the one where we have another voting procedure where we asked them, another election, which one of the three curves do you want to, or do you guys want to use? And they actually selected the one proposed by the community or by a community member, and that was the one that won in the end.
Wow.
We're also using the same voting application to run votes for our community funding board. It's like an initiative that we're doing to fund open source development that is based on Nimik, where we help with, of course, with feedback, with expertise, but also with funding, right? To pay, for example, server costs and stuff. This is also done in an open fashion where 6 people are in the board, 3 are from the team, they're rotating, and 3 are from the community, and those are voted every half a year?
Every half a year.
Yeah, it's not exactly fixed, we see how it goes, yeah. We're expanding this thing as well.
That's interesting. And so how does the community vote on who gets to be the community board member? And are they like kind of like lobbying for that? Are they out on like Twitter being like, hey, I'm the #1 community member? I mean, how is that working?
Yeah, so what they do is they propose themselves sometimes, but also a lot of the times people propose them. Like somebody from the community thinks that this other guy would be a perfect candidate for the community funding board. So they propose, hey, why don't you? So I usually talk with them. I tell them, hey, somebody proposed you as a candidate for the community funding board to be a community representative, what we call them. And I ask them for their bio, so we tweet with their information. We also have a forum where we have the information of a community candidate, and they can go, like community can go and ask them, hey, what do you think, or what are you going to do for the community? If we select you, you're going to maybe try to change this or that, or improve this other thing. And basically they discuss that, and we have the voting process for about a week, and people are able to use Sven's app. They send a microtransaction, and in the message of that transaction, they say, okay, I want to vote for this guy, and that guy as a candidate. And at the end of the day, the ones who received the most votes win.
I feel like it's a good application for some of the NIM community members on LunarCRUSH to send their influencer page to you guys and make it out there. So if you're out there and you're a NIM influencer, get these guys your LunarCRUSH page so that they know that you're influential out there. No, I love that, and I love that you guys created an interesting and kind of native way to look at community and give influence to people that are out there, and staying decentralized in nature. And it sounds like the team is decentralized. I mean, I am interested to hear a little bit about like some of the nodes and how decentralized the project is, and how do you guys kind of onboard? Like, how are you going to onboard like validators and delegation and things like that for proof of stake?
That's a good question. I mean, so I mean, for proof of work, it's pretty easy, right? Just the mining pools pop up here and there, with completely outside of our control, right? So we are, all the mining power is, so we don't have any mining power in the team actually, like just very, very, very little, but we don't control the network in that regard, right? And how the exact validator, like basically selecting the validators for the genesis block of Nimiq 2.0, how that exact process is going to look like is not defined yet. But ultimately, for 2.0, it's an open system in the sense that anyone who wants to become a validator basically just registers themselves on the chain by depositing the initial validator stake, and then they can get people to delegate their stake to them, and thereby become a validator with some weight on the network.
Yeah.
But,
is there a predetermined amount that you're thinking yet that you need to?
It's the protocol doesn't enforce any number or no upper bound on the number of validators. So we are only going to be involved with setting up the initial set of validators that are going to bootstrap the 2.0 chain. That is the only step where we are going to be involved somehow. And apart from that, everything is just going to manage itself on chain.
Very cool.
There is something interesting to add to it. Actually, I recorded a video with one of our blockchain researchers. So if somebody there is interested, subscribe to our channel, in our YouTube channel. We're going to have the video out soon. But what we talked about was he developed a metric called a trust score for staking pools in the Nimiq ecosystem. And how it's going to work is that users that when they were creating in the wallet, in the Nimiq wallet, the easiest staking experience that we can think of for newcomers and also for crypto users to really be able to just easily start staking. And when you have your list of validators or pools and you want to select one, you usually select one choosing, okay, maybe I have some information like the fees or the payout time or some of those metrics. But we created the trust score to consider the age of the validator, like how old or how much time it has been stable or has been with a good uptime in the network. Also, we are considering the amount of funds that pool is staking in comparison to the amount, the total amount that is being staked. And what we are trying to do is that big pools that have a lot of funds maybe have a lower trust score, because we also want to give a higher trust score to the smaller pools in terms of decentralization for all to be more balanced out. And also the age is going to start at the moment of the testnet, where we are hoping to launch soon. So our community members that want to run a pool or a staking pool are going to do so at the testnet phase. And when the mainnet launches, then they're going to have a good trust score because they have been here for a while already. If somebody just joins in the mainnet, they're going to have a decent trust score. But the ones that already started before, then maybe you can rely on a little bit more because they have been here since the testnet, they are going to have a higher trust score. So I think that's going to help in that regard.
So talking to community a little bit, how has, I see on LunarCRUSH, like Nimiq's, is trending a lot, and it seems like you guys have a pretty strong community. How are you guys thinking about growing this community and bringing people in? I mean, I know it's local here, and you talk a lot about, potentially like point of sale and people paying for stuff at a grocery store. I mean, how do you guys think about community when growing the company and growing Nimiq? I mean, is it social media? Is that where you're spending a lot of your time? Is it, are you guys out there doing partnerships? I mean, where do you guys spend most of the time when it comes to growth?
Well, in that regard, we have a kind of also remote first community management organization. So we have community managers from around the world. We have people from Germany, of course. We have also people from France. We have people from Latin America. Like, I'm Costa Rican, so I can help and I oversee and maybe help everybody get the content and curate what they're talking about. But we have people in Venezuela, for example, that are promoting Nimiq there, people in Brazil. People are all around the world because every demographic is really different.
Yeah.
And it's also very interesting to get insight in what is happening in different countries and how people see crypto. It's very different to analyze Europe to Venezuela. In Venezuela, crypto is a day-to-day reality. In Europe, it's a little bit more of maybe a nice to have because people still use or trust the euro. In Venezuela, it's a place where they just distrust the fiat currency.
Right.
Or same as in Argentina, for example. And here in Costa Rica is a little bit of a middle ground, because here people are maybe curious about it, but there's still we're still lacking the fintech infrastructure, because we don't have, like in the US, you have Coinbase where you can buy and sell crypto easily.
Right.
In Europe, you can do so as well. But here it is, talking with merchants, it is a big pain point for them to accept crypto if they don't have a way to get out of crypto. If they maybe accept Bitcoin or Nimik for, let's say, a restaurant, when they're going to pay the ingredients at the end of the month, or buy your ingredients, or pay for the people that work with them, they cannot pay them in Bitcoin or
because they're still using fiat.
Yeah.
Right, for their day-to-day pay, like you said, food, ingredients, everything there, paying their employees, and that's part of kind of the step into
here
crypto.
Is an interesting part where Oasis goes back into the picture, because it is a perfect solution for somebody to just is not only an on-ramp but also an off-ramp. You can sell your crypto, or you can even choose to get a payment in, let's say, Bitcoin. Maybe 50%. I keep the Bitcoin, 50% gets converted and deposited into my bank account automatically. So for a merchant that is just getting started with crypto, this is ideal. They get access to the crypto network, I would say, all the people that are looking to looking into spending their crypto somewhere and supporting this new finance ecosystem. But at the same time, they don't have all the hassle of, okay, how do I convert it back? And Oasis is also a way for us that we're looking forward to get new integrations and new partnerships. It would be great to see Oasis connected to different wallets and also different exchanges, because as Philipp said, it's open source technology. And right now, DEXs like Uniswap are great for ERC20 tokens, but then how do you get how do you get on and off in a decentralized way?
Well, first you pay the $500 gas fee.
Yeah.
And then, no, I'm kidding. Love Ethereum's, I'm not, yeah. They're going to figure it out. So it's like, it almost seems, and I know some projects are doing this where they're creating a credit card or a debit card as an interim step, right? It's not kind of the long-term vision of the space. It's like, hey, mobile web, boom, done, near field, Bluetooth, BLE. But it's like, it seems like that could be, I mean, is that something you guys have tossed around a little bit, which is for an actual payments, it's like hooked up to your Nimiq wallet?
So, I mean, Nimik as a payment coin, one of the things that we are certainly lacking at this point is, points of acceptance.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to pay, you need somewhere to pay with Nim. And this is, I think, going to be one of the big issues that we're going to be tackling this year. And we are already working on integration into existing mobile payment solutions. That is also going to be, and I think this is actually a novel in the way that we're building it, a point of sale payment solution that is instant and also non-custodial. So you don't have to basically put your crypto with your credit card provider beforehand and they hold on to your crypto, which is again not right. What crypto is all about. But what we are building right now, and we might actually have the first proof of concept demo done later today or tomorrow, is an integration with a mobile payment network that is going to work non-custodially, where you can pay at the grocery store with your mobile mobile phone using Nimik, and it's gonna clear in like a second, and the merchant's gonna get euro, and you can immediately pay with Nimik without giving your Nim away beforehand, but by releasing it actually at the very point in time where you're paying for your stuff.
And is that, and I'm stealing this from one of our investors, Alon, so if you're listening, Alon, this was your idea, but is that going to work potentially through Apple Pay or like Google Wallet Pay? Because you can add an actual card to that infrastructure without having it be an app.
So at this point, I cannot reveal with which infrastructure provider we're going to be working with, but I hope that I can do so soon.
Cool. I'm looking forward to that. We'll have to do another stream for sure on that. So I don't know. I kind of want to go back to just make sure people understand like Oasis and like what from start to finish, kind of like what that is and the extension of Nimik and everything else. So maybe you guys just give me like the 2-sentence, like if someone comes up to you in the elevator, like what's Oasis and what is it accomplishing for everyone in 2 sentences? Who can do it first?
It's the DeFi way into crypto, basically. The DeFi way into DeFi. Like if you want DeFi, if you like DeFi, you want to start from your bank account with DeFi.
Got you. So turning your bank account into DeFi, atomic swaps for your bank account, something like that. I love it. Super cool. No, and like just looking at the wallet and how, and you guys showing me and how quick it is, and just the idea that the fiat to crypto on-ramp for so many more people, and like you're talking about here in Costa Rica, we just started it we hired someone in Nairobi in Kenya, and learning about the unbanked there, and maybe if you're in the US, like sending $1,000 might not be that big of a deal a month, but that's just the start, right? We've got Venmo, we've got PayPal, we've got all of these kind of peer-to-peer, and I know in Europe there's things like Revolut, and it's just a matter of time before that kind of subset of people are getting onto the system, and I feel like they're the early adopters. It's kind of like Tesla going and disrupting the automotive industry, right? When you get to start from scratch, you don't have 100 years of technical debt, we'll call it, from automotive makers, you can disrupt quickly. And so some of these larger countries don't seem to be moving as quickly, but they're going to be passed up because the innovation happens so quickly. So it's going to be, I'm excited to see kind of how this kind of, especially here in town and getting the merchants on board and everything else, it's going to be exciting.
At the end of the day, it's really exciting also to consider Oasis being integrated into third-party services. Like now that you just mentioned Revolut, for example, Revolut supports SEPA instant transactions, so Revolut can be used with Oasis. And
so I can move right from my Revolut. Wow.
Yeah, you can send from your Revolut bank account to a Oasis bank account and receive Bitcoin back.
And get Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And soon we're going to launch the sell feature of Oasis. So it's going to be the other way around. You can send Bitcoin, input your IBAN account from Revolut, and receive the fiat, the euro in this case.
And how far out are we until the sell feature, do you guys think? Not to put you on the spot.
It's rather weeks.
By the end of the day.
Couple of weeks.
No, okay.
Couple of weeks that
Weeks?
should be live, yeah.
Wow. So I'm moving out like no KYC, no anything, just 1,000, up to 1,000 euros. Yes. Into Bitcoin, into wherever, can send it around, and then if I need to pay someone, bring it back down to fiat, I can do that too.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fees are also considerably low because here the only fees that have to be considered are all the expenses from the banks in terms of transactions, and also what we did was to commit 1% of the fees, and to add on top a 1% fee that we as a Nimik Foundation are going to use to buy NIM off the market, creating scarcity and locking those funds for 2 years to be used in further promoting and building the Nimik ecosystem.
Okay. And is that's part of the contract that's already written in? And so as those 1% fees, I mean, how are those then distributed and used? Is it just marketing? It's marketing and growth specific?
Right now, because we didn't want to delay with all those discussions, we honestly don't know what we're going to do with those funds at the end of the day after 2 years of being locked. Mm-hmm. So we just, in order to launch quickly, we committed this 1% and we communicated that with our community clearly. And after these 2 years passed, maybe charity makes a lot of sense, maybe growth makes a lot of sense, maybe we're developing something new that makes a lot of sense to put more effort, but that's for the future to be seen. For now, we knew that we wanted to commit a certain amount, 1%, for future, and also to link in that way the usage of Oasis and the Nimik token. So the more Oasis is used, the more scarcity is created in the Nimik ecosystem because of that 1% being bought off the market. In case, for example, a third-party wallet uses Oasis, then that 1% still applies.
Yeah.
So that's why we are very excited of, like, for example, imagine like right now you have MetaMask and you can buy Ethereum in MetaMask through third-party centralized custodial services, like the centralized options that Philipp said that kind of suck in that sense because it's centralized and then you lose all the niceties of crypto. But if Oasis is added into MetaMask, just speculating, then all the users now have a way of getting into Ethereum in a DeFi way, like expenses. And the only fees considerable there are the 1%, as I said, and also a low fee for the banks. So it's the easiest and more decentralized way of getting into crypto.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're talking about basically a bridge into Ethereum there, mm-hmm. right? And bringing DeFi products potentially into what you guys are working on.
Yep.
Very cool. So I want to talk a little bit, and I know we're kind of on time a little bit, but just in terms of like adoption with blockchain here in Costa Rica, Latin America, I mean, what, and you're saying some of these countries with Venezuela, and you guys are a little bit closer on the ground to some of this stuff. I mean, has adoption been, has it been faster? Has it been slower? Like, is it moving quickly now? I mean, compared to, we'll call it 2017 until now, like what's materialized in the last couple of years that you've seen has been impactful?
I think people trust more in crypto, like no coiners trust a little bit more because they've heard it a little bit more. Also, people that heard it back in 2017, now they're hearing it back again, and there's more noise about it, so they're a little bit more keen to accepting or getting their toes wet a little bit, like with crypto, and just practicing or experimenting a little bit with it. And that is definitely helpful, because before people looked at you like you were crazy if you talk about crypto. Now they actually ask you, hey, so you were.
I get a lot of those text messages from my friends back home. So.
Yeah, right. And now there's one of the mottos that we've used for crypto is for Nimik is so easy your parents can use it. And literally right now my parents are using, like they hold Bitcoin, and before they were like, you're crazy, this money that it does not exist and no country is backing it. But right now they're like sending me memes and videos about crypto. Like, look,
they went from no coiners to just memes.
Yeah,
just like boom. It's a good.
That's how it works, right? And here in Costa Rica, I think it's a good location to start doing some research in terms of adoption. A lot of projects are just talking about adoption or just the crypto aspect, but they don't think about the human aspect, and that is something that we also focus a lot. If you look at the Nimik website and the Nimik apps, everything is very well thought, very well designed in terms of usability. We put a lot of love, and now is the moment where we want to start doing a case study in a small town here in Costa Rica, teaching some of the merchants how to accept crypto, Bitcoin and Nimik, and using the sell feature that we're going to launch soon into Oasis to allow them to go back to fiat if they need so. So that is going to allow us to basically study or fine-tune our apps, and then be able to reproduce that in other latitudes. Like here in Costa Rica, we can test it, and then we can move to Venezuela maybe, where there's even more interest into crypto because of all the things that we already explained. Then we can replicate it also in Europe, but it makes sense to just first start in a small place where we can use it constantly. We have direct contact with the merchants or the store owners. And also something very interesting for us here is that a lot of high-tech or fintech personalities come to this area as just with touristic interests. And that is very, very interesting for us because people come here and they learn about maybe using crypto for the first time in a real scenario, and then they bring this idea back home. Yeah. to their like meetups and to their crypto friends and discuss it over.
It's kind of like the international town that comes together and everyone brings it back.
Yeah, it's cool. We want to make this a crypto hub.
Yeah, it's your community. It's your real life community that you're.
The other day I was talking with a friend and he actually explained it this way. It's like a little bit creating a theme park where you can actually.
I would go to a crypto theme park.
Yeah, it's like a crypto theme park where but you can choose your ride. You can go and rent your surfboard, pay for lessons, maybe go for dinner, or get a horseback riding tour. Entire vacation all with crypto. This is the list of the network of merchants where you can go and spend your crypto and have a nice time. Really use it, person to person, not talking about vouchers of gift cards or all those things, but actually supporting crypto.
So you just gave me an interesting like vision, and it's very like, did you guys watch Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Do you guys you gave me a very interesting vision of like a surfer coming out of the water. Like everyone has like a QR code that's like tattooed to themselves, and like your contact lenses like just can transfer, and like I don't know, it just gave me like this super interesting idea of just that. And so it's like, I mean, like, so creating like an oasis. I mean, the name of it, and this is the oasis, and like where it wants to happen. And I don't know if that's where the name came from. That's really cool. But I mean, is that the vision, to create something here, almost like a real life prototype of a crypto theme park?
Like a real prototype. Like we are launching mainnet of the 2.0 version of Nimik, but before that we are working on the testnet for developers to test it, for us to audit, do security audits and make sure everything is running fine. So it's kind of like the same. We are doing a test town where you can use crypto, you can like merchants know that there's going to be maybe some hiccups, and they're going to be part of the feedback and the building procedure. So that's actually exciting, and that way we can really fine tune and make sure everything is working fine to then reproduce it somewhere else. But having that oasis also is going to allow us to create not only to fine tune our apps, but also create a lot of content of real usage of cryptocurrencies, which I think is really lacking in the space.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
A little bit of the anthropological or psychological, maybe the usability part of it. How do people actually use it, and what are the shortcomings?
Yeah.
How to solve them.
So kind of before we go, I want to just get from each of you guys, and maybe we can just kind of go this way again. Like, tell me, what does the future, like, what's the vision for Nimiq, for you guys, everything else? And I know we've kind of talked about it, but just kind of reiterate again, like, what is that vision for you guys? Where also do you want to see the crypto community and the crypto space and the adoption and like, because I feel like you guys are coming from a very kind of humble place when it comes to like building and kind of being here and inviting people to come and the hackathons and people seem to be kind of flocking here to come work with you guys. And I mean, I can see why. But outside of that, it still has to be good people, paradise with people that you don't get along with is not paradise. And so maybe just kind of each of you guys can go through like a little bit of the vision and what you want to see the community look like.
Yeah, for me, it goes in that direction. Having a place where you can spend your crypto and invite people like yourself, influencers and crypto users to come to this town and just go around, pay with crypto, like live it. It's not just speculating, it's actually reality.
Yeah.
And having a place where you can just use it and also promote. For me as a Costa Rican, it's also interesting because basically we're promoting the country as a crypto-friendly place and helping authorities to see how it works, kind of a sandbox environment. That's what I would like to see in the next years. And making that a reality is really exciting.
Awesome. All right.
Well, I think Nimiq really wants to help make cryptocurrencies a global payment system that can be used by everybody, right? And by every single person, and especially the people that don't have access to proper banking or proper payment infrastructure at this point. And so we want to help drive mass adoption, and by really by first of all maintaining all the cool properties that crypto has. But also at the same time making it so usable that people are actually going to use it. Because I mean, if it's not usable, if it's cumbersome to use, then people are just going to use it because people are lazy and they don't want to get used to like new stuff. So it has to be really, really easy. And I think that is actually the core mission that drives Nimiq, to really help foster crypto mass adoption and to make crypto a usable every day-to-day payment method or currency that can be used by everybody, and really try to tackle the real pain points. Another example would be, how do we tie cash into the whole thing? We have to build the bridge to the banks, or we have started to build the bridge from the bank side to the crypto world. But the next challenge, especially if you're looking at unbanked people, how do we get cash into the equation? So that would be another interesting challenge to look at maybe in the future. So that's, I think, the vision and what we're going.
It's interesting because, and we kind of touched about this a little bit, but cryptocurrency and the word currency, right, and what that means, and looking at Bitcoin, which has become a store of value, and like everything can be a store, like a currency to trade, but I feel like the original vision that a lot of the public thinks is that Bitcoin is just going to be spent, right? And I think that narrative is now gone, at least for a long period of time, until there's a stabilization, and maybe not even then, right? Like Tesla's buying 100 days worth of supply of Bitcoin. Like it's crazy, but it's exciting to see you guys working on kind of that original vision of actually a medium of exchange, right? And payments. And so I think I don't think we've lost it, but with the kind of DeFi craze that's happened over the last couple of months, which will continue, which I think is a very pivotal piece to the industry, and there's value that needs to be on chain all over the world. But I like that, you very specific about payment. So appreciate that. Sven, what do you think?
Yeah, that's actually really a good point, this simplicity thing. Because, I mean, also I'm a huge fan of DeFi. I think it's interesting and it's really incredible what has been done. But there's like the dark side of all of that, like all the traders and people that want to do yield farming, and the perception in public that I sometimes get is like, crypto, isn't that like where some shady people try to make a lot of cash and this is all like just to make more money? It's like, that's maybe one side of how this Wild West situation right now is used by people that are just pioneers, that just hop into it and they're early adopters, they win some, they lose also a lot, but they usually don't talk about that too much, you know? And I guess for us,
Especially
it's
not on
basically...
Twitter.
Done?
So especially not on Twitter. Only
right?
wins.
Everybody's talking about the wins, but that's the thing, right? So I think for us, going back to that simplicity of saying, hey, we want to actually really go back to the root and say payment for everybody, banked or unbanked, internationally, without any walls artificially put in place by banks or governments or difficult situations, but free for everybody and really easy to use. I think that's really makes a difference. It's still not there after all those years of working on crypto.
Yeah, well, I think you guys are making it happen, and I really appreciate you guys doing this and being a part of this, and thank you for letting me be a part of your culture here for a little bit and learning about you guys. It was super fun. So where can everyone find you? What do we do? What do we follow?
So remember to follow us on YouTube. Also, Twitter is our main communication channel.
Just at Nimik?
Yeah,
Okay.
at Nimik in both youtube.com/Nimik, twitter.com/Nimik as well, and Nimik.com. We have all the information there. Check out our blog posts. It's where we have official announcements, and also we dive deep into these topics. And
And Telegram, right?
yeah, of course. Yeah. If you're like into discussion, then visit us in Telegram, also at Nimik. We have also different like small groups of community members, like the coders, usually discussing one area. Then there's the people that like marketing opportunities and are always talking like integrations. The community marketers also have a space, but at Nimik is where everybody talks.
Or just 7 a.m. on the beach for a surf here. So, all right. Richy, Philipp, Sven, thank you guys for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Can't wait for our next opportunity to talk.
Thanks
Cool.
a lot, Joe.
All right, you guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.